There's a gas station on nearly every corner in America, but here's something almost nobody talks about. The average EV charging station loses money for years before it ever turns a profit. Some never do. In fact, one of the largest charging networks in the US is currently losing over $1 million a day. So why is Wall Street pouring billions into a business that barely makes money? Why do some charging companies charge you 3 times what electricity actually costs? And why did over 2,000 public chargers quietly disappear last year? Stick around because by the end of this video, you'll understand the charging station business better than most people who actually own one. And you'll never look at that charging cable the same way again. Welcome back to the channel. If you've ever plugged in an EV or even just looked at the pricing on one of those charging apps and thought, wait, that seems expensive, this video is for you. Because on the surface, EV charging looks simple. Electricity goes in, money comes out. But underneath that simple transaction is one of the most fascinating, high-risk, subsidy-dependent business models in modern infrastructure. In the next 18 minutes, we're going to break down what it actually costs to build a charging station, why demand charges are secretly bankrupting charging companies, the real business model, and it's not selling electricity, why gas stations might end up owning the charging market, and where this entire industry is heading by 2030. Let's get into it. The real cost of building a charging station. Let's start with a number that surprises almost everyone. A single DC fast charger, the kind that charges your car in 20 to 30 minutes, doesn't just cost the price of the machine. The hardware itself runs anywhere from $30,000 to $150,000 per unit, depending on the charging speed. But that's the easy part. The expensive part is everything around the charger. Utility interconnection. To install fast chargers, a site often needs a completely new electrical connection to the grid, sometimes requiring a new transformer, new conduit, and trenching across a parking lot. This alone can cost $100,000 to $500,000. And in older neighborhoods, the local utility sometimes doesn't have enough capacity on that line, forcing a company to fund grid upgrades themselves. Permitting and construction, concrete work, electrical permits, ADA compliance, lighting, canopy structures. A single fast charging site with 4 to 6 stalls can easily cost $500,000 to $1 million all in before a single car ever charges. Compare that to a gas station. Yes, underground fuel tanks are expensive too, but the fueling infrastructure itself is a fraction of the cost, and the pump-to-customer ratio is far more efficient. A gas pump can serve a car in 5 minutes. A fast charger takes 4 to 6 times longer for the same customer. That means charging companies need to build more stalls per site just to match the throughput of a single gas pump, which multiplies the upfront cost even further. This is the first hidden truth. EV charging isn't really a technology business. It's a capital-intensive real estate and utility business wearing a tech company's branding. The demand charge problem. Here's the part almost nobody outside the industry understands, and it's arguably the single biggest threat to charging station profitability. Demand charges. Most people assume electricity pricing works like your house. You pay for how many kilowatt hours you use, but commercial electricity accounts, especially high-power ones like charging stations, are billed differently. Utilities charge based on peak demand, the single highest burst of power draw during a billing period, not just total usage. Here's why that matters. A single ultra-fast charger can pull 150 to 350 kilowatts in an instant when a car plugs in. If even one car charges at full power during the month, the utility can charge the station operator for that peak demand for the entire month, even if no other car charges there again. This creates a brutal math problem. A charging station might sell $2,000 worth of electricity to customers in a month, but get hit with an $8,000 demand charge from the utility because a handful of cars happen to charge at the same time or at full speed. This is why you'll sometimes see charging stations quietly throttle charging speeds during busy hours or space out stalls to avoid multiple simultaneous fast charges. It's not a technical limitation, it's financial defense against demand charges. Some states are starting to address this with EV-specific utility rate structures, but in most of the country, this remains one of the biggest reasons why charging companies bleed cash, even when stations look busy and successful from the outside. So, how does anyone make money? Given everything we just covered, you'd think this industry is a disaster. And financially, for the people actually running the chargers, it often is. Publicly traded charging networks have posted enormous losses for years. Many analysts have pointed out that some networks currently spend far more than they earn from charging fees alone. So if selling electricity isn't the profitable part, what is? 1. Government incentives and credits. Federal and state programs have poured billions into EV infrastructure, covering a significant portion of installation costs for many stations. Without these subsidies, a large share of current charging stations likely wouldn't exist at all. The business model in many cases isn't sell electricity for profit. It's get government money to build infrastructure, then figure out profitability later. 2. Real estate and retail partnerships. This is the real secret. Charging stations are increasingly being used as a customer acquisition tool for other businesses. Retailers, hotels, and shopping centers install chargers not to make money on electricity, but to keep customers on site for 20 to 30 minutes, long enough to shop, eat, or spend money elsewhere. The charger is a loss leader. The real revenue is the coffee, the retail purchase, the extra time spent in the store. 3. Data and software licensing. Some networks make more money licensing their charging software and payment systems to other companies than they make from selling electricity directly. The charger becomes a platform, like an app store. 4. Automaker-subsidized networks. Some networks are partly funded by automakers themselves, not as standalone profit centers, but as a strategic investment to sell more cars. If a customer buys an EV because they're confident they can charge it easily, the automaker profits on the car sale, even if the charging network itself is running at a loss. So the honest answer is, most public charging today is not yet a self-sustaining business. It's an ecosystem being propped up by subsidies, retail strategy, and automaker investment, betting that scale will eventually make it profitable. Why chargers break down? So often. If you've used public EV chargers, you've probably run into a broken one. Studies and driver surveys have repeatedly found reliability to be one of the biggest complaints in the entire EV ownership experience. This isn't a coincidence. It's a direct result of the economics we just discussed. When a charging station isn't reliably profitable, maintenance becomes the first thing companies cut corners on. Technicians for high-power DC fast chargers are specialized and expensive. Replacement parts, especially for older or discontinued charger models, can take weeks to arrive. And because many networks were built rapidly to capture subsidies and market share, quality control and installation was sometimes inconsistent. There's also a numbers game here. A company managing thousands of chargers across the country has to prioritize repairs based on traffic and revenue potential. A rural charger that sees 5 cars a day might sit broken for weeks because fixing a station in a busy urban corridor is simply the better use of a limited repair budget. This is why newer entrants, especially automakers building their own proprietary networks, are focusing heavily on reliability as their key differentiator because they've realized broken chargers don't just cost repair money, they cost trust. And trust is what determines whether someone buys an EV in the first place. The gas station wildcard. Here's a twist most people don't see coming. Some of the biggest winners in EV charging long-term might not be new tech startups. They might be the gas station companies that already exist. Traditional gas stations already own something incredibly valuable: prime real estate on major roads, existing utility connections, convenience stores generating steady retail profit, and decades of experience running low-margin, high-volume fuel businesses. Where this is all heading. So where does this leave us? Charging networks are getting better at avoiding demand charges through battery storage systems, installing large batteries on site that charge slowly overnight and discharge quickly when cars plug in, smoothing out that peak demand problem entirely. Government incentive programs are shifting from pure installation subsidies toward reliability requirements, meaning future funding will likely be tied to uptime and performance, not just the number of chargers built. So the next time you plug in your car and see a price that feels a little high, or find a charger that's mysteriously out of order, now you know why. You're looking at a brand new infrastructure industry still figuring out how to survive its own economics, propped up by subsidies, and a bet that things will get cheaper and more reliable as it scales. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.